Hi again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Sunday evening, which of course means it is match review showtime. And sadly, it is yet another defeat for Mark Bonner's men to reflect on. But it's going to be a slightly different format this weekend. As you can see, unfortunately, no Bradford fan and no Reese either. Reese is under the weather. So first of all, Reese, get well soon. So yeah, just me, unfortunately. So this one will be a bit shorter, but it will take a different route this week. Obviously, there was plenty of questions raised after the fourth defeat in a row at Valley Parade on Saturday afternoon. So we're going to have a look at some of the points that I've seen on social media. In terms of the game itself, which we'll go over first, I didn't go to Valley Parade yesterday, unfortunately. Was busy elsewhere. But it looks like we've dominated, the first half an hour or so. I think they've had one ruled out for offside correctly. But we've scored a really good goal through Jaden Clark. It's great build-up play down our right-hand side. George Lapsley, Timmy Dieng involved, and it's a smart touch and finish from Jaden, who has been one of the positives throughout the season, I think it's fair to say. We forced their keeper in to make good saves, come and punch crosses. We've turned them around a few times. But unfortunately, similar to last season, after dominating most of the first period, we were then very lacklustre in the second half, having conceded 2 soft goals just before half-time and never really looked like getting back into the game, which is mighty frustrating. Jake Turner was one subject on social media of discussion, back in the side. Was he rushed back? Was he fully fit? They were questions asked. I asked the question about the fitness thing. Just for me, clips I saw didn't look like he was able to push off for crosses. And ultimately, both goals have come from him coming for crosses and not getting there. So yeah, plenty of discussion around Jake and plenty of discussion around Jaden Clark, who scored our goal, like I've already said. That's now 12 appearances in the league for Jaden this season, 9 starts. He's got 4 goals and assists. So yeah, continues to play well, continues to be a threat, continues to do stuff defensively really well. But yeah, ultimately, we ended up with no points for the 4th game in a row. Like I've mentioned, we conceded 2 really soft goals again from our point of view just before half-time, having worked really hard for 38 minutes to get himself in front. The second I get is a brilliant hit. Technically, it's outrageous from their centre-back, but the build-up play for that and the first goal is just not good enough. First goal, we come and try and claim the cross, don't we, Jake Turner? But gets nowhere near it. It's a free header. And then the second one, we've got plenty of opportunities to get rid. We don't take them, and we pay the ultimate price. So questions are, how have we gone from a side that was so robust and so difficult to score against, having only shipped twice in our first 8 games of the season, to now conceding 7 in our last 4, in losing all of that quartet? Is it through good play from other sides, or is it us making mistakes and constantly shooting ourselves in the foot? Question I would ask is, of them 7 goals that we've conceded against Grimsby, Crewe, Accrington and now Bradford City, how many of that 7 have the opposition had to do really well with and that work really hard for to get themselves into a goal scoring position? That's up for you to decide. And then of course, at the other end, things are going south as well. Having scored 9 in our first 6 games, which is 1.5 per game, gives you 69 over a full season. Plenty enough if you're good defensively, if you want to be where you want to be. But it's just 5 in our last half a dozen, which is awful, isn't it? You simply cannot sustain that sort of record. It was something that potentially led towards a certain predecessor of Mark's and Stephen Clemency's losing his job last October. It makes you can score only 38 in a season, which is nowhere near where you want to be. What are the answers? I'm not sure. I'm not paid to know why or to work out why. More consistent selection when allowed. Change of system, 2 up top. All questions that I'm seeing being asked on social media. So let me know what you think down here in the comments and on Facebook, on X, Instagram. Let us know what your thoughts are. But yeah, certainly more questions than answers at the moment. I think based on the fact that we've gone from a side that was scoring fairly regularly and not shipping at the other end to now struggling to find the back of the net and conceding too frequently, I can understand fan concerns because it seems like last season is starting to repeat itself, doesn't it? I'm concerned. Like, there are questions that need answering and there are things that need improving. But I can sit here and categorically say, in my own opinion, we cannot go down the route of sacking a manager in October in Mark Bonner we're 5th or 6th in the league. Things have to improve quickly. I totally get that. And when does a blip become a crisis? I mean, 4 games is concerning. We can't be far off a crisis, surely. But yeah, I think I made my feelings clear that sacking Neil Harris in October was the wrong decision for me. I've seen not a lot since to suggest that it was the right opinion, the right decision to make me change my opinion. But we can't go down that route again and start again mid-season. Absolutely not. But obviously when your form is as it is at the moment, it creates discussion, arguments, opinion, debate on social media, Facebook forums, X, that type of thing. Mark Bonner's no better than Stephen Clements, I've read somewhere. Players' mentality being questioned again. Is it wrong? Do we need a new captain? Has Mark Bonner been shopping in, high-end supermarkets compared to his predecessors? Ollie Hawkins is a donkey. I read that on one Facebook post. Jaden Clark offers nothing offensively and defensively. Jake Turner is pony. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Some I think are valid, some I think are absolutely ludicrous, but it got me thinking. First point I really took notice of was the comment about Mark Bonner and is he as good as Stephen Clements or any better or any worse or that type of thing. So I thought I'd have a look at all 3 managers since Brad Gallinson took over the football club, Christmas 2022. So I decided to go from the Hartlepool game, 14th of January 2023. That was the first game we played with Brad Gallinson signings in the starting 11. So if you look at the points per game in that period of our 3 managers that we've had, I'm discounting Keith Millen, he was a caretaker. So we look at first Neil Harris, 34 games in charge in League 2, 1.7 points per game, which gives you 78 over a 46 game campaign. Stephen Clements, his successor, was in charge for 30 games in League 2 and averaged 1.3 points per game, 60 over a 46 game campaign. And finally, the man in situ at the moment, smaller segment obviously to be able to look at, but 12 games in charge, 19 accrued, 1.58 points per game, gives you 73 over a 46 game season. The caveat is if Mark Bonner wins on Tuesday, that rises to 1.7 points per game, which would take it to 78, the same as Neil Harris's, ironically. Interestingly, furthermore, since sacking Neil in October 2023, we've taken 58 points from 42 league games at just 1.38 points per game, which equates to 64 in a full 46 game campaign. You miss out on the playoffs. Like I say, these are just numbers, and it was something I wanted to look at based on what I'd read on social media, and it's up to you lot to make your own opinions on said statistics. We then move on to transfers. I've seen comments that Mark Bonner's had loads more money to spend than Neil Harris. He's had loads more money to spend than Stephen Clements. So should he be getting more out of his team? Should we be top of the league, running away with the division, that type of thing? So it got me looking at all our transfers since Brad Gallinson took over. So if we go back to January 2023, that was the first window we had. Neil Harris had fees spent on players for first team ready, Tom Nichols, Timmy Dieng, Ollie Hawkins and George Lapsley. I think it's fair to say that certainly 3 of them had a huge impact on helping us stay in the Football League. There's a case to say that all 4 had their moments. On top of that, there were undisclosed fees paid for Ethan Coleman and Jaden Clark, who were projects at the time, I get that, and who have now become essentially first team regulars. And then in the summer of 2023, Neil Harris was allowed to bring in Ashley Naderson from Crawley Town for a fee. Not a huge fee, but a fee nonetheless. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players that were essentially first team ready, plus 2 more that came in and have now built themselves up and progressed themselves to be in and around the first team on a regular basis. You then move on to Stephen Clements, who I know only had 1 window, but was allowed to bring in Romeo Hutton and Josh Andrews. There was rumours of both of these were 6-figure fees last January, so not sure where this Stephen Clements has had no money to spend argument comes from. And it was Stephen Clements' decision himself to replace EFL experience in Macaulay Bonne and Tom Nichols, regardless of our opinions on what we think of them individually and their characteristics and their ability to score goals or to influence football matches for us. Stephen Clements decided to move them on. One is playing in League One, I just hasten to add, and replace them with unproven loans in Jorge Cabezas Hurtado and Josh Walker. Now, I know Hurtado unfortunately picked up an injury after 3 games, so that's part of the game. That happens. But I don't think Stephen Clements was not backed in January to try and improve us. He made decisions based on what he thought was correct at the time. Did he get them wrong? Did he get them right? Again, that's for fans to decide themselves. But I'm just presenting some facts based on what I've read on social media. We then move on to a lack of consistent team selection, and I get that injuries are part and parcel of the game and they happen to every club up and down the land, in every division, in every country throughout the season. But are we now being hurt more as October moves towards November than perhaps we were earlier in the season? I get early part of the campaign, managers don't know their best 11. Managers don't know their best systems. They're not sure who fits into a position the best. Someone might be better away from home. Someone might be better at home. This system might be better away from home. This system might be better on your own turf. But I'd say we've made at least 2 changes for every league game this season. I think there might be one where we only made a sole change based on a suspension or an injury. But apart from that, we've had to make numerous changes for every league game. And most of them have been due to injury. Now, I'm not including concussion or illness in this because you can't legislate for someone going downhill. I'm talking about injuries that are caused by playing the game, training, being on a football pitch, that type of thing. Do we know our best 11? Has Mark Bonner had the chance to work out his best 11 based on other factors? He's admitted, I think, that on a couple of occasions that players are having to play when not fully fit. Ethan Coleman, a prime example. We lost Robbie McKenzie, who'd been really good alongside Amani Little early part of the season when we were very impressive. He's basically doing his pre-season in League 2 games, which is not ideal for him. It's not ideal for us as a football team. But if these issues continue in terms of what seems like a rotating door policy at the moment, 1 or 2 back, 1 or 2 out, does it make it very difficult for us as a football team to sustain any type of promotion push? We've used 3 keepers in the league this season, albeit Luke Ashby Hammond only played sort of 25, 30 minutes against Accrington Stanley, but it's still a fact. We've had to use 3 different stoppers. The question that got raised after the defeat against Bradford yesterday was, why didn't Ashby Hammond start? Why did we maybe rush Jake Turner back into a game where he knew he was probably going to come under a lot of pressure from crosses and big physical centre halves, a big physical centre forward in Andy Cook? Again, it's just another question that's been asked. If you go through our squad in number order, it's not a great list. Glenn Morris, Romeo Hutton, Connor Masterson, Ethan Coleman, Armani Little, Josh Andrews, Aaron Rowe, Robbie McKenzie, Elliot Nevitt, Bradley Dack, Jake Turner and Timmy Dieng have all missed games or substantial periods of time this season already, and we're only 12 games in through injury. And again, like I say, just to reiterate the point, that's not concussion protocol like Johnny Williams had to miss a fixture for. You can't help that, and you can't legislate for illness. But yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players have already missed a lot of football, and we're only in the middle of October. Do we know why? Can we ask why? Right, before I start wrapping up this fairly negative, I suppose, if you want to label it, review, which has almost morphed into a sort of question and answer session with myself or with you, the viewers, to answer, like I say, in the comments down below and on Facebook and on X and all that type of thing. But player mentality, that's another thing that keeps cropping up when we go through a rough trot of form. It's a question on everybody's lips again since the Bradford defeat yesterday afternoon. Myself and Reece alluded to it last week in our review after Accrington. We mentioned that I think 10 of the 16 that were involved last week in that home defeat had featured heavily under Neil Harris and or Stephen Clements. And interestingly, the starting 11 at Bradford yesterday, if you go through that, Jake Turner, Romeo Hutton, Conor Masterson, Max Eamon, Max Clark, Ethan Coleman, Timmy DeYoung, George Lapsley, Joe Baudet, Jaden Clark and Ollie Hawkins. Not one of them was signed in the summer. They were all players that have features under them two predecessors heavily again. So is there an issue with the players more than the manager or the managers? Are we putting too much emphasis on it being the buck stops with the manager? And I get it does to a degree. He's the one that's coaching them and training them throughout the week, ready to play on a Saturday or a Tuesday. But are we looking in the wrong direction potentially? Are we barking up the wrong tree? Again, I'm not going to sit here and answer that. I'm putting a question out there. All I will say is the caveat, this season certainly, is that we had to play with 10 men for around 30 or 35 minutes plus injury time against both Chesterfield and Tranmere. And we managed to see out both games to nil to take 6 points from 6. So that doesn't entirely add up if you're questioning a player's mentality and ability to dig in, nor does the fact that after our defeat against Doncaster, we then went and won 3 games consecutively against Tranmere Rovers, Notts County and Barrow. 2 of them were top at kickoff. And again, we didn't concede a goal in any of them 3 games. So that doesn't really make the point about player mentality valid. Not valid, but it certainly doesn't stack up, does it, is my point. Are we looking into stuff too much? Are we digging too deep? Are we trying to find reasons for what is essentially maybe just a poor run of form? Who knows? But what we do know is this run of defeats has to stop fairly quickly if we want to get back on track and be considered a serious promotion contender, whether that's through the playoffs or going up automatically in the top 3 in this division. Yeah, just plenty of food for thought. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Apologies if it's not something you've enjoyed. I've had to try and sort of think on the spot and do something slightly different this weekend without Reece or a Bradford fan. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on any of the points that I've addressed in this video. As always, thanks for watching. Please keep hitting that like button. Please consider subscribing. It is free to do so, like I say, all the time. We are trying desperately to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the season. If we do that, I'm sure I can manage to do a giveaway. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll be back Tuesday for a match day live at home to Newport as we attempt to get our season back on track and claim our first points in the month of October. And then just to pre-warn you, after that, there will be no content in the run-up or after Swindon. It is my wedding anniversary next weekend. So there'll be no preview, no match day live or no match day review show next weekend. And then we'll be back at full tilt the following week, which I think will be FA Cup build-up week. But until then, hope you've had a good weekend, Gills aside, and up the Gills.